What's up, everybody? It's your boy Trax. I'm in the building with Dustin. I'm in the building with Coop. I'm in the building with Kyle. And now we have the Brandon Squared is in the building. Both Brandons are in the building. That's right, folks. Don't lose your head that we're both in the building at the same time, on the same channel, at the same place. So I'm really excited to have all you fellas on board. I mean, really, right now, this is like Christmas, guys, like ridiculous. I mean, like they give leaks and all that, but until it was like for sure at 7 o'clock and we knew what was in the box, like we really couldn't get totally excited about it. And now that we can, we're all together, we get to talk about this and it's so cool. So, right off the rip, guys, I'm really excited about how this whole season, the regular season, is created for the Bears. I think could be really good building blocks for our team, really good building blocks for Caleb, because we don't come in heavy-handed and having to play the tougher teams right off the rip. So, but we'll get your thoughts about this. Let's go ahead and start off with week 1. That's September 8th versus the Titans, and that is at home. So, let's start off with Dustin. Dustin, what do you think about the game versus the Tennessee Titans at home in Chicago?
I think it's a great opening game for the Bears. I mean, you're talking about a second-year quarterback who's still learning. You're talking about a bunch of new guys they brought in that they still got to learn the system and learn each other. That offensive line, I know you talk about that line tracks. You like that, the additions they made, but these guys haven't played together. There's more continuity across that Bears offensive line to start this season in my mind than with that Tennessee Titans team. And the fact that it's at home, it could have been a coin toss game if you wanted to make it that, but the fact that the Bears are at home, that makes them favorites. And they should win that game by at least 6 points in my mind. I think it's going to be a hell of a way to start the season, and I see the Bears winning that game.
Yeah, I think Michael came out and said that forgot who that was with that FanDuel maybe. He said that the Bears are favored by 4. So I like what you're saying about the 6. So that definitely tracks. Kyle, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I agree with Dustin, man. I mean, I think this is a perfect game for the Bears to start the season off with. We talked about this numerous times on this podcast. I don't think who you play is as important as when you play them. And I would project the Titans to finish somewhere around 500, maybe a little bit above, a little bit below. Problem with the Titans is we really don't know much about them. First of all, like Dustin said, there's a bunch of new additions, and some of them are really good additions. But like Dustin said, they haven't played together. They still have to build that continuity. And most importantly, they have a new coach. I really don't know what to expect from the Titans this year, but of all the games on the Bears schedule this year, that looks like one of the most winnable for sure.
Now, I mean, I'm not trying to lead the witness, being you, but it almost sounds to me like you might give them a little bit more than 6 points.
Well, what's? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you called my name.
No, I just said Kyle.
Kyle.
I was finishing up with what he was saying.
My bad.
And to the point of the way that I read into what he was saying was that it seemed as though he might give him a little bit more than a 6-point victory.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Bears won by 10 points or even 2 touchdowns. I mean, like Dustin said, Will Levis is young. We don't expect from him either. And the Bears defense looked like it finished strong. They averaged almost 3 takeaways a game for the last 6 games of the season. They're coming into Chicago, opening day of the NFL. I mean, to me personally, I think that's kind of a slam dunk for the Chicago Bears. I wanted them to start off with kind of a tomato can, and we got it.
Yeah. What about you in that tomato can, Coop? How do you feel about it?
I feel like this is an interesting one because the Titans, I thought, were tanking when they went and cleaned house. They only had 6 wins last year, and they went and got rid of Vrabel, who I still think should be coaching. So, I mean, I know he's working with the Browns now, but I still think he should be a head coach. So he probably will be next year. But I love Brian Callahan as their head coach for the Titans. So And then they went out and signed all these free agents with L'Jarius Sneed from the Chiefs, and they go out and get Ridley. I like the draft pick, the first round draft pick they picked up. But kind of what you were saying too, Kyle. But this is a whole new team with a whole new coaching staff, and they're putting different players together, different schemes together. And I think the unknown is their quarterback in general, and he's going into Chicago. I mean, let's be honest here. We have an unknown quarterback in general too. We all think he's going to be a very good player, but that's his first game at home. But I feel like I like the idea of him playing his first game at home. And I think these are two very interesting teams this year. I think the Bears are really more on the ups, and I think the Titans are still probably a year away. So I kind of like the matchup for the first game at home for the Bears in this one.
Brandon, what's your take on it, buddy?
Yeah, I really like the game for Caleb Williams' first game as an NFL quarterback. I think the Bears would have won this game last year, and I think the Bears are more improved than the Titans are this year. And the matchup that I would pay the most attention to is Will Levis, who might be good. We don't know. He kind of showed signs of being a good quarterback last year, and then he kind of fell apart. But the matchup I'd pay attention to is Will Levis against that secondary. I don't know. I mean, those guys, like Kyle said at the end of last season, were taking the ball away at a higher rate. I'd imagine Will Levis is going to throw some interceptions in this game. And I also think for a team that didn't do very well, they were 17th last year, ranked 17th in the league in sacks. So as long as the offensive line can protect Caleb Williams, if you can let your rookie quarterback in the first game of his season feel comfortable, that's probably the best start he could ask for. And I know they've done some work to that offensive line. I know they signed, I think, two good players and maybe drafted one as well. But if Montez, they were fourth worst team in the league last year in allowing sack. They allowed 3.5 sacks per game last year. The Titans did. So, I mean, if Montez Sweat can pick up where he left off and the secondary does as well, I don't think it's going to be a good day for Will Levis. I don't know what to say about Caleb being his very first game as an NFL player, but I think he could outplay Will Levis. I'd hope so.
I think he's going to appreciate having some potentially, like, I mean, let's be honest. He had nearly two undrafted receivers in the NFL, right, boys? Now you're going to 3 first string, Pro Bowl. Well, not the rookie, but you know what I'm getting at. 3 first round receivers, first string receivers. I mean, just phenomenal talent, and for the most part on any team would be day one starters. So it's cool for him to have that. I definitely know firsthand that he's going to have an improved offensive line for sure, improved running backs. I know some people spoke highly about the running back for USC, but I'm here to tell you he did not impress me at all whatsoever, especially with his hands and blocking and whatnot. But that's neither here nor there. I agree with you, Brandon. I agree with all of you guys on the front. And I'm kind of like in the middle of the road of Dustin and Kyle. I feel like the floor can definitely be past 4. I think 4 is a little low. I think 6 sounds about right, Dustin. Could be a little bit higher, but I definitely could see us pull away with like an extra, I don't know, maybe we could win by like 13 or something. Just depending on how far this gets away, because without even knowing beforehand what Brandon just spoke of with the 3, you said 3.5 sacks a game?
Yeah, I think it was like the actual figure was like 3.67 or something like that.
That plays a big role in Levis' comfortability and how dumb he's going to be protecting that rock.
Yeah, and I think that's the Bears' offense is entirely new, so we don't know what to expect. The one thing we know is the Bears' defense was playing really well, really good football. So if the Bears' defense just picks up where they left off against a Titans offense, I don't think is phenomenal. The Bears could win that game on defense, even if Caleb doesn't have the best game.
And if we stall, we got that freaking laser punter that's going to pin it back at the 1 yard line and half inch marks and all that crazy cool stuff. Coop, we're going to spend a little bit more time on you for week 1 because you've got to pull us a little closer down in Tennessee. Are you hearing anything about this game or the comfortability of the fans, or are they a little concerned right now? Is it a little shaky down there?
It's funny because I feel like I'm right in the middle of Titans fans and Falcons fans. There's a lot of Falcons fans that live here too.
Oh,
and they're very, very, because Atlanta's only like 245, I think, from where I'm at. So, but obviously, yeah, Tennessee. No, there's excitement for Tennessee. There's a lot of excitement for Tennessee. They're excited for the young quarterback and they're excited for the coach because you got to imagine this coach coming from Cincinnati. He's under that Zach Taylor, but the Zach Taylor, Sean McVay type of offense.
okay.
So they're very excited. And something else to keep in mind about the Titans too is they hired their father, Brian Callahan. No, is it Brian? The father's name? I can't remember the father's name off the top of my head. He's been in the NFL forever. He's considered one of the best offensive line coaches in the league. He came from the Browns. The Browns let him go. And I think that's going to be an upgrade right there because I think he's so good. He's such a great offensive line coach that they brought him in and brought him in pretty fast to help out with their line. So I think the Titans fans are very excited for their future. It's just it's all a question mark as a quarterback. I think it leans to any team you think of that has a young quarterback. What is your young quarterback going to do? For him, it would be for year 2 and coming back from an injury.
So outside of the quarterback deal, because they really haven't had anybody to be excited about as far as a quarterback since Vince Young?
Ryan Tannehill, come on.
Tannehill was solid. Tannehill was solid for them.
He was solid.
Well, remember that Titans team lost Derrick Henry too. That's something I feel good about as a Bears fan.
Yeah, I don't like the Tony Pollard pickup either.
That's why I was that close to dropping that. I was really close to dropping that, and then the wide receiver AJ, right? AJ Brown. Those two right there have got to leave Tennessee like, what the hell? Those are those two what the hell moments, because especially if he goes out and shines, and I think he will. Like, he's just a big beast of a running back. Like, I think he's got a lot left in the tank. I don't know what the hell's going on there, and then AJ too, obviously, and it's like, now you're like really set back with those two key those players, and I don't know. And then, like you said, like there's got to be some people like you, Coop, even though you're a Bears fan, you're still like, Vrabel should still be in the building. So for them to be excited about, their young quarterback and their new coach and stuff, there must be a little bit different of a buzz that's going on. So that's something to look at. But I still think week 1, we take that away. Week 2 is a little bit interesting too, because now we're starting to see a little trend. We're staying in the AFC South, and September 15th, we're traveling down to Texas at Houston on our very first prime time, one of only 3 primetime games at Houston. What do you say about that, Dustin, that game at Houston?
That's going to be a tough one. That's one of the losses I see on this schedule. I mean, the Texans, obviously, we all know they were the Cinderella story last year in the NFL, and C.J. Stroud just got better as the season went on, and I don't expect him to take the offseason off. He's going to be working his ass off trying to get better, and they gave him another weapon in Stephon Diggs. They got a lot of potential to win that division, and I think they should win the AFC South pretty easily, to be honest. And I think you're going to have we're going to be on a pretty big high after that Titans game, because it's not often the Bears come out and win that opening game. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to go to Houston, and we're going to see a team that is probably a year ahead of us in terms of competitiveness from my perspective. So they got a great defense. They got a great defensive coach in D'Amico Ryans. They're going to throw a lot at a rookie quarterback in his second NFL game, and it's going to be tough. I think the Bears will put up a fight, but I could see them losing by about 3-7, somewhere in that range.
And we didn't get a chance to hear what Michael had to say about that, and I didn't expect him or anybody to go that deep into, what the Vegas odds were and whatnot. But I'm on the fence with you on that. I thought we would pull away, but I could also see where it would go the other way too. And we had a podcast recently, remember, boys, who did it best? Who set the foundation best for their quarterback? Was it CJ in Houston, or was it, Chicago Bears and Caleb, and that's really interesting. And we might have to revisit that and act like we didn't have that podcast and do it again. So, because that's a great idea. But Baralissimo, thank you for joining us in the chat. Very excited to have you all the way from Europe, brother. Joe Didka is in the building, and Michael, thank you as always. Michael has Baralissimo answer the question. Bill Callahan. Also, like I said, we've got over 60 in the chat. So make sure you hit that subscribe and like button, leave a 5-star review. You all know what to do. Michael said, according to projected win total, the Bears have the easiest schedule from weeks 1 through 10. For weeks 11 through 18, it drops all the way to 26. So automatically, I've got egg on my face because Sean and I just got into a really interesting discussion about weeks 11 through 18, and I made it sound like it was a walk in the park, and clearly, according to the numbers, it's not. But anyways, that's still interesting numbers, and I like the first half to start in the first half. I'd rather have the first half instead of the second half first, if that makes any sense, where were we at? I'm sorry, boys. Who was next? Texans. Yeah. So who was next? We were asking Kyle. Sorry, Kyle. Kyle, what do you think about the Texans game, brother?
Well, I hate to sound redundant, but once again, I have to agree with Dustin. I mean, for me personally, like I don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's when you play them, and that's just the time and place. Playing Houston, prime time, Sunday night in Houston, week 2, especially if Houston loses that first game. If they come out 0-1 and they're going to come out with some fire, and like Dustin said, I mean that's a really good coach there. They added Daniel Hunter to the defensive line. They're going to throw a lot at Caleb Williams. They're going to do a lot of disguises. That defense was good last year. I expect Will Anderson to make a huge leap, and he was the defensive rookie of the year last year. He's only going to get better. And then they added Stephon Diggs to the offense. I mean, it's going to be a very, very, very tough atmosphere for the Chicago Bears, and it's going to be a tough test for Caleb Williams in his second game in the NFL. If I had to, if you asked me to pick right now, I'd say Texans 17, Bears 10.
Oof.
Sean's paying attention, you bastard. I was hoping to slide my apology in while you were having computer issues. Damn it. I'm sorry, Kyle. I totally, no disrespect. What did you just say, brother?
I basically said at the end of the day, I think the Bears go into Houston and lose by probably 4 points to a touchdown, somewhere in that range.
We lose. Okay. All right. I respect that. What about you, Matt?
I hate this matchup. I don't like it. It's funny. I was looking at their offseason. First off, I think one of the biggest things for them in the offseason is they kept their offensive coordinator, Bobby Slowick, who is probably going to be a head coach next year. One of the most creative minds, comes from the Mike Shanahan tree, and you could just tell. You could just see when you watched them play last year how comfortable CJ.
Lost your mic, brother. Can't hear you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah, something with his new setup with the.
How about now?
You're good. You're good.
I'm sorry. I got too excited about the Texans. The energy. I'm a second favorite team. I was about their coach and how comfortable CJ Stroud looked in their offense last year, and I think a lot of that has to do with their offensive coordinator. I think he's going to be a head coach next year, especially if they have another good year. Another couple of moves that they made in the offseason between, we talk about Stephon Diggs. What about Joe Mixon? They got Joe Mixon from the Bengals, and they also re-signed Dalton Schultz, the tight end, who I was very high on. I thought when we were looking here in the offseason, that was one of the best tight ends that you can go out there and get, and he had a great year for them last year. And I think with him coming back in that offense and Joe Mixon and Diggs, and the rest that they have, that's going to be a very hard game to win. And I can't listen. Anything could happen, but I think this would be a 7-point game for the Texans to win.
Can we slide some controversial tweets across Diggs's path so that way before we play him, his head is not in the right space and we cause a little bit of dissension over there. So we have like the upper, because I feel like that could help out tremendously.
His head might not be in the right space on his own. We'll see. He can do that by himself.
Yeah, I agree with that wholeheartedly, man. I feel you on that. But yeah, Coop, it's amazing. It's something that we've all entertained and talked about, and for whatever reason, I almost feel like Caleb's trajectory is almost tied to CJ Stroud. And now that we're playing them, obviously the NFL knows what the hell they're doing. And in week 2, we come in and it's like, okay, let's see what you got. And this is definitely a test, a litmus test for to see where Caleb's at against CJ. So let's see what happens. Let's see what Brandon has to say about all this, man. How do you weigh in on this, Brandon? Are you for the Bears, or do you think Houston's going to pull one over on us?
This is a matchup that I don't like. I don't like for Chicago. It's a matchup I don't like, especially where it falls in the season. The Bears will still be trying to find their identity. And what concerns me most is it's a team that gets after the quarterback really well. Like Kyle said, they added Danielle Hunter. The Bears are going to struggle with this defensive front, and they're the 4th best rush defense in the NFL. So you're
Damn.
going to see, we might already by week 2 have to see Caleb make some winning throws because their safety tandem, the Houston Texans safety tandem between I forget the first, Jalen Petre and MJ Stewart, allowed 70% completion last year. So if Caleb can get the ball deep, there's a weakness on this defense. There is. They
Yeah.
struggle with passes. Their secondary is not phenomenal. So Caleb Williams is going to have the ball in this game in order for the Bears to score points. They're not going to run the ball efficiently. I think Danielle Hunter's also a really good run defender as well as he is pass rusher. So I think the offensive line is going to get overwhelmed. I think they're going to have their hands full. I still think the offensive line is one of the Bears' weak links, if you ask me. But I also don't like the fact that the game's in Houston. If the game was in Chicago, it might be a different story. But yeah, I don't like going to Houston week 2 while the Bears are still kind of trying to figure things out. But I will say this. If the Texans do what I expect them to against the Bears run, it's going to be fun to watch Caleb kind of have to do it with his arm, and I think we're going to see it pretty immediately. I think by week 2, you're going to see Caleb already kind of start to do that thing where it's like he knows he's got to take things into his own hands. And I do like our receivers against that secondary. That's one thing I think the Bears have a favorable matchup in. Those 3 guys, Adunze, Allen, and Moore against the secondary that, like I said, their safeties allowed 70% completion last year. That had to be, I'm guessing, the worst in the NFL. So I do like our receivers against that team. I don't necessarily love our offensive line against that team.
Okay. All right. So the good with the bad, and I agree. I think at that juncture, I would have to say that I am leaning more towards the shootout of the 2 quarterbacks, and I think the receivers are going to, especially with that 70%, and just watching Caleb effortlessly just whip them balls out there with 3 receivers, Cole Kmet. I mean, honestly, there's a couple other receivers that could get in the mix too. So I think we could pull out, but there too again, I'll save the best for last. I won't tell you what my record is that I have for the Bears through the bye week, but let's get into week 3, September 22nd at Indianapolis. Yeah, Indy, a team that I'm not too familiar with. I think I know enough, but let's hear from you guys. What do you guys think about Indy? Let's start off with Brandon. Brandon, what do you think about Indy, brother? In Indy versus the Bears, September 22nd, week 3.
I like this matchup. I would have the Bears winning this game, regardless of where it's played. I think Indy they kind of got stalled and they're a year behind the Bears at least because they drafted their quarterback last year in Anthony Richardson. He got injured for basically the entire season. Gardner Minshew played okay. They clearly have a really strong wide receiver set. Those guys are drafting wide receivers well. Michael Pittman was a draft of theirs. Josh Downs was a draft pick of theirs. Then this year they drafted
AD
who was it? Mitchell. Yeah. So
Oh yeah.
um, the secondary's going to have their hands full. I think if Richard and who knows, guys. I mean, I don't see Richardson being a player that sustains health. So I don't know if he's even playing that game by week 3. But I do think the Bears would have beaten the Colts had they played them last year, and I think they'll beat them. I think they'll beat them this year. I think by week 3 too, Caleb will feel obviously just a little more comfort than he did in the first couple of weeks.
What about you, Coop? What do you feel about this whole setup?
This is an interesting game. First off, you guys know how many Bears fans are going to be in Indianapolis for that game. There's going to be a ton of Bears fans. I feel like it's going to be the Bears, Chicago South. What's interesting about the Colts, guys? I think they're an interesting team this year. They were sneaky. They were 9-8. They had a winning record last year with Minshew playing at quarterback. Now, he did some things that I like, some things I didn't, but I really like their head coach, Steichen. I think he's a great offensive mind, too, that's in this league. Kind of to what you said, too, about Richardson. I don't know what to expect from Richardson. I liked things that I saw from him last year, but can he stay healthy? I don't know the question to that. And I thought one of their better signings in the offseason was keeping Franklin, their linebacker, who's a very good player. Maybe not necessarily a household name, but if you watch some of the Colts games last year, you saw that guy flying all over the field. And they have a very good defensive coordinator, too. I think this is a game that the Bears could absolutely win, but I think this is a game the Bears can lose, too. I think this is a Colts team that was in a lot of games last year. And with the quarterback coming back healthy, I think it can go either way. But I still think I could take the Bears. I would take the Bears maybe like 3 points.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. So the Bears for sure, but you could see an upset in this game if there was an upset brewing. That would be the one. So okay. And there's some news there that I was unsure about or did not know about with the Colts. I didn't realize that they handled themselves that well last year, What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with what Matt said. I mean, this team is just kind of a big question mark. It's kind of an unknown. I mean, Anthony Richardson looked like he played well at times last year, but it looks like he also might have health issues. I think he was actually injured a couple of times last year, if I'm not mistaken. I do like their wide receiver core, like Brennan said. It's kind of sneaky good. At Josh Downs, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman. Obviously, Jonathan Taylor is always going to be, as long as he's healthy, you're going to have to keep an eye on him out of the backfield. But ultimately, I think this is going to be one of those games where their spread's pretty close, like maybe 1.5, 2 points. But I do think the Bears will beat the Colts.
Was Alex that kid from Cincinnati?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that was one that I was kind of looking at in the draft, and
Yeah, me too.
I rarely get who I want in the draft, except this year. I got exactly everything I wanted and a punter. What about you, Dustin? What do you think, brother?
I was I'm having a tough time with this one because, like Coop said, if you guys remember, the Colts were a game away from being in the playoffs and the Texans not being there. Like they played that, right? Yeah, they played that last game of the season to see to decide who won the AFC South. And that was with Gardner Minshew as their quarterback, and that was with a weird season of Jonathan Taylor where he held out and then he was hurt. I mean, if he comes back healthy and Anthony Richardson, it's a big if, but Anthony Richardson's a guy who can get outside the pocket, who can run people over, who can make the game, just dirty and make it tough on that defense. And they got some great receivers. I think the Bears should win the game based on just like looking at the talent level of both teams. But again, like you said, Steichen's a great coach. I think Gus Bradley, I think his defense can be gotten in the passing. He runs that cover 3. And they're not particularly great in the defensive backfield. So again, it's going to come down to these receivers making plays, Odunze, Allen, and Moore, and Caleb Williams balling out. I would love to see a shootout here, like a 31-27 type of game. See these two quarterbacks going at it, just kind of like in that same Houston Texans, the way we were talking about that. I think the Bears can pull it out, but it's going to be when I first looked at it, I was like, that's a win. But now I'm thinking, as I think about it more, it's going to be a lot tougher than I gave it credit for at first because that coach team is well coached.
Yeah.
And guys, I should mention the Colts secondary was, I didn't know this, based on what, like Cooper said, they played good after they lost the quarterback. Secondary was ranked 31st.
Yeah,
So I'm when I look at the Bears' schedule with Odunze, Moore, and Allen, I'm gonna focus a lot on what these opposing teams have in their secondaries, because you're changing the dynamic in which teams got to approach this Bears team. There's no doubt about it. I don't know how you handle all three of these guys. You're gonna have to be crafty. You're gonna have to drop some things and confuse them, because you can't cover these three guys in man, and you probably can't cover them in zone. You're gonna have to double some of these guys up. It's gonna leave somebody open. So sorry to cut you off, Kyle. I know you're next.
no, Trax was up, but yeah, no, the cover 3, Caleb Williams can pick that apart.
Yeah, and honestly, the way I look at this is, getting back to that 3 wide receiver set and just really spreading it out, having like a spread type offense and seeing what you got. It's just at this point right now, I remember, and I'll go back again to the Colts when Peyton Manning had all his receivers, Stokely, Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark. It didn't matter which running back was behind him. They had to respect the receivers in front of him first. And those guys were getting chunk plays. Those guys were getting yards. There was some guy named Mongo or something, and that dude freaking got like 500-600 yards and a die. He ate constantly. There were so many guys, and it's going to be really cool to see what happens because you guys were there the other day with Davis, and when he was talking, our old tight end, he was like, they focus differently on the defense. They focus differently on the receivers. The best tandem that he could think of, and not trio, was Brandon Marshall and Alshon Jeffrey, and of course Greg Olsen. But to that point, it looks pretty damn good. And for a team like Indy and that secondary being as weak as it is, I see no problem in torching them. And I think we are going to win in a convincing manner. If not, we got to start picking some teams on here, boys, where we're actually going to do some damage. I know there's some teams on here that's going to give us havoc and beat us, and we're not going to go undefeated, right? But there's got to be some teams on here that we can win convincingly. And for what it's worth, I thought Indy and won a couple games later that we'll get into. I thought for sure we own them in the draft, and now and we're gonna own them on the field. So, but I don't really have a number as far as Indy. I am a little concerned though about that quarterback because his name's coming up a lot, and I don't know an awful lot about him only because he was often injured. So I haven't really seen him play a whole lot at the NFL level. The next game is a little interesting only because, for the most part, unless it's a quarterback or like a really key piece, Dustin, I don't hold a whole lot of stock into one player being out and making such an impact. But Aaron Donald is that dude. And I'm really interested. I know Cup is there, whether he's got a beard or not, has a deciding factor on how well he plays. I feel that to the fullest. But I'm really interested to see how well that defense galvanizes and how well they perform without Aaron, who can take 1 to 2, maybe even 3 blocks at a time, soak them up. But what's your take on this game against the Rams? September 29th, we'll be at home versus the Rams, Dustin.
Well, you mentioned Aaron Donald, and that's a huge loss, obviously, but they also lost their defensive coordinator, Raheem Morris, who went to coach the Atlanta Falcons, right?
Right,
and
yes, sir.
He was one of the best defensive coordinators in the league. He made a lot of stuff happen with, younger guys coming in and getting after the quarterback, helped develop some pass rushers. So, Chris Shula is now their defensive coordinator. That was an inside promotion. I don't know. I know for sure he's not going to be as good at that as Raheem Morris was. That Rams offense is scary. And you saw them last year. They were in a lot of shootouts, a lot of exciting games to watch. And I think it's that kind of game in Chicago. I think I think those receivers for the Rams are gonna get after our defensive backfield. You got Nakua, and you got Cup if he's healthy, and you got Stafford winging the ball to him. So I think the Bears are going to have to score a lot of points to win this game. But I think that defense is taking a big step back, like you're saying, Trax, and I think they can do it. And this is another one I flip-flopped on since it came out, because I really just have a lot of respect for Sean McVay. That team was so well coached last year, and if you guys remember going into that season, the Rams were shit on. Like, they weren't expected to be good at all, and they got into the playoffs and gave the Lions a hell of a game in the playoffs. And Sean McVay did that with really inferior talent. So he's one of the best coaches in the league. It's going to be a tough game. It's kind of a toss up to me. It's hard for me to pick, man. Hard for me to pick. I don't know. I think it's a shootout, and I don't really have a prediction at this moment because I keep going back and forth.
Okay, fair enough. Kyle, how do you feel about this?
I agree with Dustin. I mean, to me, when I looked at the schedule, this was the one that I thought was like the ultimate toss-up. I mean, this literally could go either way. First of all, like Dustin said, man, I mean, they are probably one of the best coach teams in the NFL. I mean, across the whole coaching staff is a very good staff. Second of all, they did lose Aaron Donald, but they drafted Braden Fisk. I think their defensive line is. I'm not saying they got better, because they certainly did not, but I don't think they're going to be one of the worst defensive lines in football.
Jared Verse too.
Yeah, Jared Verse as well. And remember, like Dustin said, with Cooper Kupp is healthy, and you pair him with Puka Nacua, Tyler Higbee, Demarcus Robinson, and now you got Kyron Williams running out of the backfield, who I thought was probably a top 3 running back in the NFL this year. If it's not raining and it's good weather out, it's nice weather out, because we know Matthew Stafford struggles in poor conditions. But I hate to do this, but if I had to choose right now, I'd say the Bears lose that game and start the season 2-2.
That's where I'm leaning to.
Wow. Okay. All right. Fair enough. Coop, what you got, buddy?
I was thinking about this when you guys are talking, losing Aaron Donald, losing Raheem Morris. Those are big losses, big losses. But then I looked at their draft this year, and I was talking about how all these quarterbacks went up top. We had the amount of quarterbacks went up top. A lot of these players started falling down a little bit more. And Jared Verse fell a little bit further than I thought. And I was a big fan of him coming out. And I think that was a huge pickup in the draft for the Rams, on top of other defensive players that they have, like Kobe Turner, Ernest Jones, who's a great linebacker too. They have a lot of these young players that came out of nowhere last year. And I think that's to what you guys are saying too. A lot of that has to do with coaching, because McVay's such a great coach. And then when you look at their offense, Nakua, I mean, I didn't know much about him. I think a lot of us Bears fans were upset when he went to the Pro Bowl over DJ Moore last year. But then you go back and watch some of his games. I'm like, oh my God, he's ridiculous. Look at his route running. Look at the way that dude runs his routes. Look how fast he is. And maybe I just didn't know enough about him until I watched some of the Rams games and I watched them into the playoffs. And this team could be scary good this year. I even without Donald, I think they can be a very good team. Now, I don't know how they're going to be on defense without Raheem Morris. I think that is a very big loss. So I don't like the setup for this game either. I have to go with the Rams. I think the Rams probably by 7 in this one too.
Brandon?
Yeah, if I got to pick winners and losers, I'm going to say the Rams win this game. I agree with Kyle. They think the Bears start 2-2. I also agree with Dustin. This is going to be a shootout, guys. I'm going to keep hammering this away, guys. This is the 25th ranked secondary in the NFL, and they did not do a whole lot of work to it over the offseason. So once again, that 3 receiver set the Bears have is going to be a nightmare for everybody. And if you got a secondary that's not somewhere in the top of the league, you're not going to manage it. There's just no way. I think the Bears score a lot of points in this game. Their pass rush is young, the Rams. But the reason I have the Rams winning this game is because I don't like teams always early in the season. The teams that concern me the most are the teams that finished the strongest last year, right? The NFL is the only sport to me where when you have momentum going into an off season, you typically carry it into the next season. The Lions and Jaguars were 10-2 over the 2022 season, and they came into the 2023 season both 8-3. I mean, they were just lighting fires, right? And to me, the Packers and the Rams were the 2 teams last season that finished the strongest. And like Dustin said, they kind of flipped the switch. They got to the playoffs. Aaron Donald's not replaceable, but they have added some pieces to get after the quarterback. I do think I think their secondary is still going to be bad. I do over the course of the entire season. I think they're going to be one of the worst secondaries in football. So I think this is going to be a shootout. But Stafford's done it time and time again. Caleb hasn't, and I think that's where this game's going to fall to me on strictly experience. Honestly, I think it's just going to come down to who's the better team in the fourth quarter. And Matt Stafford's been doing this for how long?
Yeah, you make a lot of interesting points. Wow. Um, Very hard to argue with some of those points. The one point that does stand out is a lot of parity, right, boys? It's like, did the did the NFL know what they were doing when they set our top three receivers that we just got against these like lackluster secondaries right out the gate? They put those and they loaded them in the front of our schedule. Like
Yeah, but
somebody's
it gets
back
rough
there.
towards the end.
What's that?
In regards to the secondaries the Bears play, though, I don't know if they did us any favors because it gets rough at the end.
It gets worse, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you got Caleb Williams able to come in. I think the point Trax is making is that Caleb Williams is coming into his first few games.
No, Trax,
right?
honestly, Trax, I agree with you. I looked at this and I thought to myself, did the NFL like deliberately do this?
Yeah.
It almost felt that way. Like they're giving Caleb
Make it as easy on Caleb as
time,
possible.
right? Like,
Well,
it
you
felt
guys-
that way.
You guys also know that Misty brought out a good point the other day. She was talking to like the head director dude over there at the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. And there's like several dudes there that are like on the committee that do like the voting and stuff, or not the voting, but like in charge of like, tallies and all this kind of stuff, whatever. And they're like diehard Bear. Like the one guy's got like Mongo. And to me, I was like, what's taking so long? If you've got his picture right behind you in a jersey, what took you so long to get him in there? I didn't say that, but that's what I was thinking, So like, and also I think that she said that now we hold like a ridiculously lead in front of any other team with like the most players in the Hall of Fame, which is freaking awesome. And we're still here pounding the table saying, we want this guy to go. We want that guy to go. We want that guy to go. You know what I mean? So it's crazy. So, but yeah. So, anyways, getting back to that, it's just the parody is unreal. Every time Brandon says, "Yeah, this defensive back suck," I'm like, "Oh, imagine that," So, speaking of suck, next week, week 5, October 6th versus Carolina, suck. In Chicago, what do you feel about this one, Brandon? How do you feel Carolina is stacking up against the Bears?
I think Carolina loses a lot of games this year, and I don't think it's because of one individual player. We're going to hear a lot of trash talk about Bryce Young. The team's just not talented, man. They're really not. I did like the draft they had. I thought they got better on offense, and I thought they they clearly targeted skill players to see if they can put a little bit of talent around a quarterback because they still got to figure out if he's the guy. I don't think the season we saw Bryce Young had last year is reflective of who he is. I think he's a good player. I do. I think the Carolina Panthers, though, are very comparable to the Chicago Bears team Justin Fields was drafted to, right? They fired the coach. They didn't wait till the end of the season like the Bears did with Nagy. They fired the coach in the middle of the year. And they feel a lot like the Bears did in Justin Fields' second season, and we all know how that went. They won 3 games, right? So I mean, I think this Carolina team's going to be last to second to last place in the NFL, and I think a lot of teams are going to beat up on them. And I think this is going to be one of those games that just makes Caleb Williams feel good. This is going to be a great game for Caleb Williams when he's done with it. I mean, I think the Bears are going to stick it to him, and I think Caleb's going to have a lot of confidence after this game. But yeah, I can run down the entire Panthers schedule and probably just tell you lost, to be honest with you. I think I see the Patriots and the Panthers being the 2 worst teams in the NFL.
And Brandon, to piggyback off of what you said and to add to your point, I'm like, there was a time where I looked at Houston and I'm like, why did you get rid of D-Hop? And then we all know what happened with the massage dude and the finger in the butthole and why you got rid of that guy, right? Like, had to get him out of the building, shipped him off to Cleveland where they take all the phones. But as like, look at that team over there in Houston and how quickly they rebounded, man. It's unbelievable. It's ridiculous. I'm not quite sure Carolina can do the same type of rebuild that fast, but it is miraculous what Houston had in the building, and like they are really good. They had every single one of us on our heels, as far as week 2, that potentially, very well could be our first loss of the season, right, boys? So, but I think Carolina is a far further away from all of that happening. It's crazy how quickly a team can rebuild when it's, I guess, done right. Or
Well, in regards to that, Brandon, I will say this: the one thing that they did, me and Dustin talked about this a few days ago. They did kind of completely flip that wide receiver room. That's one thing I'll say they did.
Carolina did,
right?
Yeah, their best receiver became their number 3 this year. So that's
really
Johnson. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I will say this: I
Much
did not
love.
read that Deshaun liked a finger in his butthole in those reports, but thank you for breaking news here, Trax.
Dude, I'm not even like, okay, like I don't have like an inside source. No pun intended. No pun intended. I'm not trying to get freaking P. Diddy with it on this whole deal. But the deal is the deal, man. I've heard like from multiple sources and multiple places that there was some massage oil and some fingers and some weird activity going on in the southern region.
Go into detail.
No, we'll save that for a after night podcast or something, Goop. And when we're drinking some Blantons or something, I don't know. Right now I'm just drinking water. So yeah, no, but it's crazy. Carolina, for me, it's an obvious loss. I think we could go through every single one of us, but I don't even know if that's even worth its point. I think we're all, unless anybody has something like damning they really want to talk about with Carolina, I think we could probably save a little bit of time and move on to Jacksonville.
What I do like about, I will say, I like the receiver they drafted, Xavier Legette. I think out of when I looked at the draft of the receivers, I think that dude can potentially be a superstar in the league.
I also they signed from Pittsburgh, not.
They traded for
Deontay Johnson and
I could tell you about Johnson.
I don't believe in Bryce Young. I think that's where watching all this won this game 27-10.
Watching all the Steelers games with my Steeler friend girlfriend, Johnson's a hit or miss player, man. Like I feel like there's some games where that dude will shine, and then there's other games he just doesn't show up. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out with a new team and a new change of scenery.
Bro, I agree 100%.
Bro, Coop, I love you like a brother, but quit putting that Pittsburgh watching shows on your girl. You at some point enjoy it, okay? So let's just be real. Okay?
I'm part of Steeler Nation, man. I'm not afraid to admit it.
It's all good, man. I
got my Justin Fields jersey.
It's probably already dirty, right?
How much did they pay you to accept it?
Bought it for $40, man.
That's what we traded Fields for.
$40
and a washing machine.
$40 punt returner. Yeah. So I mean, without being said, October 13th, week 6 is my birthday game. I will not be in London, boys, but that is against Jacksonville. We do have home field advantage, which means we just get a bigger part of the pot that they share to the what do they call that, revenue. So we'll get more of that because Michael looked that up last night. I'm like, the dude was like, well, I just looked it up on Google, and Google told me, says, okay, listen, Jacob, we got to work on your apprentice. Okay, you don't name your source. You just say my sources tell me. Your source is Google. You don't have to say it's Google. Just say my sources tell me. And he's like, I'm too honest for that. I'm like, come on, man. So, but yeah, man, Jacksonville. What do you guys feel about Jacksonville? I honestly, I'm gonna sound like a homer through week 6. I got us going 6-0, going into the bye week. Okay, So Jacksonville's obviously a win for me in London. We're gonna party with our pants off. It's gonna be a great game, and it's gonna be real exciting. We just hope that we can get Caleb back on the flight to get back. That's my take on the whole deal. How do you feel about this, Dustin?
I feel like the Jags are they're ripe for a rude awakening. I mean, the way they finished last season. I mean, Brandon talked about momentum going into how you finish a season, carrying into the next one. With teams playing really well, the Jags had that division on lock, and they completely pissed it away.
8-3.
Facts.
They blew it.
Yeah. They lost games they should have won. They just really just pissed down their own leg. I mean, and their head coach is lame duck head coach Peterson, and I don't see them coming out guns a blazing this season. I think they're gonna start out really rough. I think they're gonna have a tough first 6 games of the season, and one of them's gonna be a loss to the Bears in London. We can talk about the Jags. It's like a second home to them. They play often over there, but players play the game, and the Bears just got better players than the Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence is a bit overrated. I think the Bears can get after him, and I think they can pick him off a couple of times. I see the Bears winning this game by 10.
Wow, I like it.
Yep.
Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to give the Bears a win here, just because, like Dustin said, it's definitely the better roster. I do think it's going to be closer than people think. Well, first of all, not only because, like Dustin said, I mean, that's like a home away from home for the Jaguars. I think Trevor Lawrence has already played there 3 times. I mean, I think the Jaguars, those overseas games, those 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning games, always kind of just have. It seems like the ball just rolls a weird way in those games. But I do think ultimately the Bears are a better team than the Jaguars, and ultimately they will win that game.
Yeah, I remember when I lived in California and the games would start at 9, and I thought that was super cool. But it does make a big difference looking forward at it now and everything, and it's definitely a lot earlier approach. And then they're flying, whereas we're just waking up and watching cartoons and then automatically watching our Bears, right? So yeah, it's definitely a crazy approach. So
And I do like Josh Allen a lot on the Jaguars. I think he's one of the best defensive ends / linebackers in the NFL. And I also do like the draft pick of Brian Thomas Jr. I just don't think they did enough.
Okay. Yeah, I heard a lot of good stuff about that Brian Thomas Jr. The only damning thing about him was they weren't sure if that shoulder was battle tested and ready to go for the field yet. But if it is, man, look out. He's got another weapon, right? So
yeah, I mean, and he had to compete with Malik Neighbors for targets all season, and he still had a really good season. I like Brian Thomas a lot.
Okay.
He led college football and touchdown catches. Yeah.
What's that?
He led college football and touchdown catches. I mean,
Nice.
He's a good player, but I thought the Jags had way bigger issues they needed to address in this draft than
I agree.
Playmaker for Trevor Lawrence, to be honest.
Yeah,
I thought they fumbled it.
I don't think anyone took away from his ability or whatever. It was just the whole injury concern and how well that shoulder holds up. Because you remember how Alshon, he would always go up for the ball and fall. Like he would go jump up, even when he didn't have to. Maybe he did. I don't know. But he'd like jump up, catch the ball, and he'd fall on his back, fall on his shoulder and all that. That catches up with you after a while, So, but we'll see. Maybe it's nothing at all. Some guys know how to get down before contact. One guy that comes to mind, or 2 guys that come to mind, was Jerry Rice and Marvin Harrison. They just seem to get a little bit extra and then just know how to get down and evade, a potential hit. So if Brian can do that, then yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, because how many other receivers do they have in Jacksonville, Kyle?
Well, we've got Christian Kirk.
Gabe Davis.
Davis is
Captain
too.
Kirk. Oh, David. Okay, yeah. So they've got 3, not our 3, but they got 3. So yeah, I'm with you though. I definitely think we can handle some business. What about you, Brandon? How do you feel about the whole Jacksonville and London game? You excited about this one, bro?
I am because when I'm not watching the Bears, I'm most often watching the Jaguars. I've been a fan of them for a long time. I love Trevor Lawrence. I love Travis Etienne. I do think the offense improved. I'm glad they didn't give Calvin Ridley $98 million or whatever the hell he got.
Oh
Um,
gosh, yeah,
I do like. I think Brian Thomas is actually going to be a guy who is going to looked at as should have been taken as a top 10 pick. To be honest, when his career's
wow,
when he's a
okay,
few years in.
I agree with
I
you on that.
I think Thomas, Kirk, and Gabe Davis is an improvement on the receiver. I think the offense is okay. I like, Evan Ingram, I believe, was in top five. Yeah, he was top five in the league in receptions. So you talk about an insurance blanket there, like for
yeah,
Trevor Lawrence. That's the guy you can dish the ball to when you're under pressure. And that's my biggest concern for Jaguars is he's going to be under pressure a lot.
yeah,
Trevor Lawrence is not well protected. That offensive line wasn't good. And besides Rayshon Jenkins, that secondary is also nothing to write home about. But I got to agree with Dustin. The thing that bothers me the most is this is the most criminal case of scapegoatery I've ever seen in my life in professional sports. I mean,
Coterie.
ridiculous. This head coach was awful. He was criticized the entire season for his inability to manage a clock. He wasted challenges when he didn't need to. He didn't throw them when he should have. Calvin
Yeah,
Ridley had 3 catches, all 40-yard plus catches. One of them was a touchdown, and they were all called no catches, and he didn't review any of them, and they did the replay. All of them were catches, and then he'd throw a replay. He'd throw a challenge on like a 2-yard gain on a bad spot. Like, I mean, this guy was just bad. He's bad. He shouldn't be a head coach in the league anymore. I know he won a Super Bowl, but between him and Salah or whatever the Jets coached. You're talking about two guys that it's unfathomable those two guys still have head coaching jobs in the NFL. It really is. So I agree with Dustin. That team plummeted going into the off season, and I think that's where they're going to pick up. I do. I think the Bears playing them early is good for the Bears because maybe Jacksonville gets something together, but it's not going to be early in the season. And I think the Bears beat them in London, no matter how many times they've played there.
okay. What about you, Coop? What'd you say, buddy?
What do you guys think? Mac Jones' first game about that time? Because Trevor Lawrence, he's hurt a lot. So do you think Mac Jones will be in at some point as Jaguars quarterback?
I don't
You
think
know,
London wants to see that.
no, I don't think any of us want to see him.
They
You,
already
you know
saw
what's the Jaguars are such an interesting team to me. And that's funny you bring that stuff up about the head coach because this is it for him because they fired a defensive coordinator. Their defense was terrible last year.
He
That was a
fired
big
everyone. He
yeah.
threw
They
everything
fired
on everyone.
it
Yeah.
pretty much blamed the entire coaching staff except for him. So I mean this is it, and they've got skill players that I really like on that team. I like Allen a lot on defense. He's a player that I don't think a lot of people talk about because he's on the Jaguars, but he is one of the best players one of the best defensive players in the league. But what are they? What is Trevor Lawrence? I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I think that's a winnable game for the Bears.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, after we've went through the first 6 games, we all can agree the Bears are going to be 6-0. I like what you guys are saying. Just kidding. But it does sound. I mean, 4-2 is still a winning record, right? I think you guys both, all of you guys agree that there will be a minimum of 2 losses, maybe a maximum of 2 losses, 4 wins, 2 losses going into the bye week and then jumping right into it on October 27th after the bye week at Washington. Be a really good matchup. Number 1 versus number 2 QB. Maybe for some people, not in that order, that they have no idea what they're talking about. October 27th at Washington. How do you feel about that one, Brandon? How do you feel that game's going to go at Washington?
This is one of those games where I actually appreciate the retainment of Eberflus because the Washington Commanders just flipped their entire coaching staff, and it's funny, they actually Ron Rivera did an interview on the radio, and he said they told him they wanted to go in an offensive direction. They were letting him go because they were going to go offense like the rest of the league. They were going to build their coaching staff and their entire roster. They're going to start like just going heavily in on their offense, and they hired Dan Quinn. So
Oh wow.
I don't know what the hell they're doing there. I don't know if they know what the hell they're doing there. I don't know that Jaden Daniels will. I'm guessing they're going to start him because they feel they have to. But like Kyle said, I mean, that guy was throwing to pro players in college football. I think that's overlooked. I mean, between Thomas and Malik Neighbors, he had the best receiver tandem in college football, I believe. So I think Jaden Daniels is going to be a very, very slow moving project. If he is starting when he plays the Bears, I don't think it's going to go well for him against the secondary the Bears have. I do see the Bears winning this game, and I like I like the Jaden Daniels draft pick. I don't like him as a starter immediately in the NFL. So I think the Commanders could be headed in a good direction, but it's not going to be this year.
Yeah, I got one word for Jaden Daniels: drink milk. He's just way too freaking small. It's unbelievable. And I think he's going to get beat down. And talking about replacing people that have left, we got Sweat in the building. Did they replace Sweat? I don't think Sweat is replaceable. So to me, you already
I
know
mean, they
what.
got the tackle out of Illinois, but the defensive end, no, they did not. They did not replace him.
Yeah, so maybe it takes a little while, but at least they've addressed something on the line, right, Kyle? Kyle,
Yeah, I
what
mean,
do you feel?
Johnny Newton's a good player.
Oh yeah, for sure. I wanted some Johnny, bro. What about you, Kyle? How do you feel about this whole setup, man, against Washington, October 27th?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, I really don't know what to think about Jaden Daniels. I think it took him too long, and he was kind of like a one-hit wonder, and everybody kind of jumped on the bandwagon. I don't see. I think Jaden Daniels to me is more comparable to like Robert Griffin III than he would be like Lamar Jackson, like some people are saying.
Oh wow.
It's cool. It's cool that he won a Heisman. That's great for him. I think the Washington's receiving core can't stay healthy. You know, I like Terry McLaurin a lot, but he's had ups and downs his entire career. Like you said, they didn't address the defensive end position, at least nothing significant. I don't like their defense. I think Washington is basically in the beginning of a rebuild. I personally would not start Jaden Daniels from day one. I would sit him on the bench and let somebody else get the brains bashed in. But I do not think they Brennan said earlier he thinks the Panthers or Patriots will be the worst team in the NFL. I think the Washington Commanders are going to give them a run for their money for sure. I have the Bears winning this game.
They did retain it. They did retain a really good player on that defensive line though, in John Allen.
Allen, a beast, yeah. And then he's going to be now. He's paired with another great defensive tackle, but they can't apply pressure from the outside, and their secondary doesn't impress me either. I just don't. I think Washington is years away, if not at least a year away, but probably years away. And I think the Bears win this game and win it handedly.
Wasn't it interesting that so many guys, mostly on the defensive side of the ball in Washington, was tied to the Bears? I mean, we got one, but out of those, like, to me, Sweat wasn't even on our radar, and then all of a sudden we got him, and it was like lucrative big time offer, and now he's like MVP of our team. It was super cool. But to that point, like, I was thinking Chase Young, you know what I'm saying? And then
they were saying Allen was going to. The Bears would try to take a shot at Allen too, because when Eberflus got here, he said, "I need a good 3 technique to build this defense around," and that he was. They were.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just
and he can move outside too.
And it's like some of those household names that we look at and that are on our radar don't necessarily mean that that's what, drives the needle, but because like I said, Chase, I would have probably lost my job if I would have went for Chase over freaking, Sweat. And like, Sweat like a 5th round draft pick or something?
He was
first round pick, but he's
end of the first.
Yeah. I do agree with you. I think Chase Young had a lot more I don't know, hype around him, but I think
Sweat.
Montez Sweat leads the league for defensive
27th pick in the draft.
Yeah, Sweat was top 5 in the league, and quarterback hurries, sacks, tackles for loss. He was ranked number 3 in Pro Football Focus against the run. I mean, Montez, that was a great trade for the Chicago Bears.
Wild and stupid take of mine saying that he was in the 5th round. I don't know where the hell that came from, but that thought got in there somewhere, boys. Thanks for kicking that out. I appreciate it. Sure. That was bad.
27th pick, I believe, in the draft.
Yeah.
Okay. So so we went to Kyle. Let's go to Coop. Coop, what do you think, man?
Yeah, I think Washington's going to have a tough year. I'm interested to see what Jaden Daniels does, because I thought him and Caleb Williams were 2 of my favorites coming out. I don't know what Dan Quinn is. I like Dan. Listen, I like Dan Quinn as a coach, by the way, too. I love what he did with Dallas. I thought he was great. And if you listen to those players on that defense, those guys all loved him. They played for him, and I think he's a pretty good coach. You lose quite a bit. It's going to be interesting to see is McLaurin and Dotson. Are they going to be able to stay healthy? I do like some of the pickups that they had free. I mean, they've changed a lot in free agency. But with that being said, usually when that happens is because you're turning over a team that wasn't very good a year ago. So how are they going to come together? They brought a couple of veterans. I saw I know they brought Fowler and Wagner in, who both played for Quinn before. So they're going to bring some leadership for some of the younger guys. But this is a winnable game for the Bears.
Don't they have like a dialed in, like really good tight end too, or a couple of them?
Logan.
He was drafted as a quarterback, actually. Logan Thomas, I believe, was his name.
Thomas, yeah.
Yeah.
He's always
Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz went there, didn't he?
Yeah, he got injured last season as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Logan Thomas was actually drafted as a quarterback to the NFL.
Dustin, what do you say about Washington, bud?
Well, I mean, I I don't like the fact that their quarterback can hide behind a stop sign. You know, like he's so small. If he takes a big NFL hit, it's gonna be over. And then, you know, they have to start him. I mean, Kyle, he said he wouldn't start him, but you're gonna start Marcus Mariota over him. I wouldn't want to do that. Now I agree with Coop and Dan Quinn took a team to a Super Bowl. He's a good head coach, and they're trying to do the right things there. But like it's been said before, it's going to take some time. They got to develop a rookie quarterback in this offense. I thought they made a big mistake in trading Sam Howell. He was much better than some of the options that were there to be drafted this year. In my mind, he had a really good season last year, and if you were going to draft Jaden Daniels, having a guy like Howell would have made sense to me, because then you can bring Jaden Daniels along a little slower and still be semi-competitive. I don't see the Commanders winning more than 6 games this year, and I don't see one of those wins being against the Bears. I think the Bears are going to take them out. I think the biggest matchup to watch in that is going to be, you know, Payne and Allen against our guards and center. If
Newton,
right? If they can win that matchup on that side, it's going to make things tough on Caleb Williams with that pocket collapsing right in front of him. So the Bears got to really focus on that. You guys talked about all the things the Commanders don't have. I almost called them the other name. But they do have those 2 guys in the middle, so they should focus a lot of attention there and making sure that those guys aren't in Caleb Williams' lap, because that's where you can start losing the game if you don't pay enough attention.
Fellas, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would almost like to do a 2-for-1 on the next 2 weeks, week 9 and 10. November 3rd at Arizona, and November 10th versus New England in Chicago. Can we all agree, or does somebody disagree that either one of these teams will beat the Bears?
Those are dubs.
I think the Cardinals is a tougher game than people think.
Yeah, they play people tough.
Yeah,
they played well. They played well at the end of the year last year when Kyler Murray came back and kind of got his feet underneath him. They beat the Eagles late. I don't know if people forget about that. They have Marvin Harrison Jr. I think Michael Wilson's better than people think. I think he's only going to get better. I like Trey McBride. James Conner's good. They drafted a good running back. Their offensive line is pretty good. I think their defense is young and getting better. I think the Cardinals are and Kyler Murray. If you don't get to him early and often, he will make you pay. I think that's a tougher game than people think. The Patriots is not even worth talking about.
Kyle, not to take away from your killer take against Philly, but didn't Philly go on like this really bad losing streak at the end of the season?
Yeah, they were like.
What was up with that, guys? Do you guys know what the hell happened there? Is there something
Their secondary sucks.
Well, not only that, but I heard there was a bunch of drama inside the locker room as well. I heard that Jalen Murphy wasn't happy.
Yeah, they made that coaching switch from Desai to Matt Patricia in the middle of the season.
That was horrible.
Yeah, just awful. They lost the locker room is what happened.
They had a phenomenal draft, though, so watch out for them this year.
They did have a good draft. I agree.
Yeah, the Eagles are still one of the best teams in football, and obviously losing Kelsey that sucks. But I mean, I think the Cardinals actually went on a little bit of a winning streak. I just think the team is much better with Kyler Murray at quarterback. I don't think they're like, last year with Kyler Murray was out, you could look at that team on your schedule and be like, oh man, that's a win guarantee. But I just don't think it's the same as this year.
So can we say, for the most part, we feel that the Arizona could be a close victory too, but that could also be a spoiler, or are some of us on board with a 1-1 for those 2 weeks?
I don't think out of those 3 games between the Commanders, the Cardinals, and the Patriots, I don't think the Bears are still. I'm not confident enough to give them 3 wins in a row like that.
Yeah, I
I
just
think
don't
there's
want
going
to
to be
sit
one of
here and
those
say the
games.
Bears are
Yeah.
going to go 15 or 16-1. I think if one of the, like you said, Brandon, attracts if there's a team where the Bears maybe if there's a game where the Bears maybe slip up a little bit, and you're not going to beat every team you should, and you're not going to lose to every team you should lose to. But so I mean, for me, it would be the Cardinals would be the team I would pick for that. I just can't see the Bears winning 3 in a row with a rookie quarterback like that. It's
But
going to be a
how do
long
the
season.
Cardinals beat the Bears? What do they? How do the Cardinals beat the Bears?
What do you mean?
I do
Like
see the Bears
what
winning
beats?
3. I see the
I
Bears
see
winning
them
3
winning the
games in a
three.
row.
I don't see the Cardinals
I
having the
do.
weapons
That's
to
such a
beat the Bears.
cakewalk in their schedule right
I
there.
mean, the Cardinals had a good running game at the end of last season. Kyler Murray can make plays. He makes things happen. You have obviously Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to by that time in the season, I believe Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be bona fide #1 receiver. Like I said, I think Michael Wilson is better than people think. I think he had inconsistent quarterback play for most part last year. I think he's better than people think, and I like Trey McBride a lot as well. And that offensive line is good. It's underrated. The problem with the Cardinals right now is their defense, but if it turns into a shootout and maybe the ball bounces the wrong way, I just think that game's closer than people think. I'm not saying it's a guaranteed loss for the Bears. I just don't want to sit here and pick the Bears to be 16-1.
Well, they're not, because you've already picked a few losses, but
2 losses, 15-2, I guess.
hey, the back end of the season, 11 through 18, you're going to pick a lot of holes, okay? But I just thought these 3 for sure, especially the 2, Arizona and New England. I mean, I don't even know if Arizona is a better team than New England or vice versa. And I like what Brandon said. Dustin, how do they beat us? I mean, like
I
this
don't
is
remember that
something
offensive line being.
this is something I just want to get off my chest really quick. I don't think that we win as many games as we do because of Caleb. Only in the sense that Caleb makes limited mistakes, plays smart rookie football to the best of his ability, does the best that he can, plays with inside his game, and back to what he was saying, listens to all the veterans, uses them, and I think the defense is basically going to win these games for us. And Caleb is not going to
Yeah.
lose them because he's going to play with inside himself and not, he's going to play smart football. He's going to get to his receivers. He's going to eliminate his interception and his fumbles. He's going to throw the ball out of bounds when he needs to play another game. I'm not saying he's going to play hero ball and throw 400 or 500 yards and put the whole team on his back every game, because that is not what a rookie does. I think he's just going to play smart complementary football, and the team in of itself that is not rookie is what's going to win us these games.
If the Bears beat those 3 teams, where do we have them right now? So we have them with 2 losses. So how many wins is that?
2 losses through week 10. Yeah.
So we got them at what, 8-2 because the bye week?
Well, we got
7-2.
7-2.
Yeah,
Yeah.
7-2.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what?
But that's not the end of the season. That's not the end of the season, because you're going to see real quickly where things start to de-escalate.
But if the Bears, I don't know about you guys, but I'd be ecstatic if the Bears lost to the Cardinals and still started the season 6-3. I think that would be an amazing start for Chicago Bears with a rookie quarterback. I think it would be absolutely amazing.
But if you're going into that game as a 5-2 club, as the Chicago Bears, and the Cardinals are say 3-4 or 2-5, which is probably what they'll be looking at their schedule, you're gonna pick the Cardinals to beat the Bears just because
do
you think these guys are even trying to win?
It happens every year. Do you think anybody picked the Bears to beat the Lions for 7 of 8 quarters last year? Absolutely not. I don't think so. The Bears on paper were one of the worst teams in football.
Talent on these teams, I don't think that the Cardinals have a more talented roster than the Bears.
I don't think the Bears had a more talented roster than the Lions last year. I don't think the Bears had a more talented roster than the Lions last year.
But when you're projecting, you're not considering which way the ball bounces.
Like if we had gone through the Eagles' schedule last year, even with Kyler Murray healthy, you would not want to start the season before the season began. You wouldn't have picked the Cardinals to beat the Eagles. Things happen, man. It's a long season.
I think it's gonna be a close game, but I the one thing they gotta say, Kyle, you said the Cardinals listed some talent at their skill players, but their offensive line was ranked one of the worst in the league in pass blocking.
Yeah, but they also took
They
the
were one of
best
the
tackle of the
highest in the
draft, playing
league,
who
and
was a rookie.
one of the highest in the league in run blocking, but they were pretty egregious. I don't know if you guys remember, there was a game where Dobbs had been traded and Murray wasn't back, and they had a guy start. I forget his name. The quarterback that started one game for him, and he threw like 52 yards and got sacked like 6 times.
Yeah, I mean, and how much of that's
I
on the
remember that
quarterback? You
game.
can't. Not every sack was every sack of Justin Fields on the offensive line.
I'm just saying, I don't remember. I don't recall them being a unit
They
that's looked well upon.
they took the best tackle in the draft last year.
Can
He's
can
only
we
going to
be
get better.
honest too for a minute, guys? And I don't really know this, and maybe we don't either asking this question. But do you guys really think that they're a ball club that's even trying to win this year?
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
think so.
if
I
they
think
believe in Kyler Murray, yeah, I think they have to.
Yeah, their win total is set at like 6.5, and a lot of people think that the Cardinals are going to outperform that win total. I'm
Okay.
not one of them. I don't think so. I think 6 games at most is what the Cardinals will win, and I don't. They're still they still
They're in
year.
a brutal division
Yeah,
too.
they're a really
Guys,
tough division.
I got some breaking news right now. If I could interject, usually I don't do this, but permission to break ranks. Here's the deal. I just saw from Adam Mason that after the schedule was released at 7 p.m. Central Time, Vegas had the odds at 8.5. After the schedule was released, it got bumped up to not 9 wins for the Bears. So that's pretty significant.
Sense. The way the schedule's laid out, that makes a lot of sense to me.
You start 7-2, they're definitely going to get those 9 wins.
The rest is downhill, folks. Pack it in. It's going to be a long second half of the season. Oh man, let's get over to Coop, man. Sorry, Coop, but what's your take on all this, man?
You know what? I'm interested. Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. I still think the unknown to me, and I do think Caleb Williams is going to be a superstar quarterback. I don't know what he's going to be like in year one. Even with all of our weapons that we have right now, I feel like there's going to be a couple of these games that he's going to make a few of these rookie mistakes that we expect rookie quarterbacks to make. I just don't know what those games are or when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's going to happen in the back of my head, where it could happen to a game against the Cardinals, a game against Washington, one of these teams that we think that we are going to beat, that we think we're better than. And if you look at the rosters, yeah, stack our roster against Arizona's roster. I think we got a much better roster. But we also have, I got to keep thinking on the back of my head of like, we still have a rookie quarterback playing this year. And is everyone going to be a CJ Stroud of last year? I don't know. I don't think so. I think sometimes that just comes once in a lifetime. But you like all the tangibles that Williams has. So I mean, I think they're going to beat the Cardinals. But I for some reason think there's going to be one of those games like that, though, that we look at that they're going to lose.
So I think we might be arguing on two different points, but more so on the side of it isn't necessarily the Cardinals that we're going to get stuck with possibility of losing to, but it could be any one of those based on him just being a rookie. And I love how you ground me, Coop, because you know how I get in front of my skis and some of this stuff. Because quite honestly, I look at this and I'm like, well, if CJ Stroud in Houston could do this, why not me too? Why not Caleb? Why not my Bears? Why can't they overperform? Why can't they do better? Because before CJ Stroud did this, nobody could do what he did.
Yeah,
So
why
at
didn't
this
Zach
point-
Wilson do it or Trey Lance do it or any of these other? I mean, it's just so, all these are such unknowns, but it also depends on the coaching staff too.
Yeah.
Well, and let me say this, guys. There was 8 quarterbacks drafted in the first round between this year and last. Okay, Caleb Williams in his first year with the team that we've seen that had 7 wins and did nothing but add talent is playing 7 of those 8 guys. And if he's not playing JJ McCarthy, he's playing Sam Darnold. He's playing Bryce Young. He's playing CJ Stroud. He's playing Jaden Daniels. He's playing Drake May. He's playing Anthony Richardson.
Wow.
So I mean, not only is the schedule in our favor in the first half of the season, and not only is the team strong that Caleb Williams has been drafted to, he's playing a bunch of guys that have about as much experience as he does. I mean, yeah, think about that.
I love that.
What Will Levis? Can we consider him any more of a veteran than we do Caleb Williams? Honestly, I mean, there's some games that he's gonna. If Caleb Williams is the guy that we want him to be, we expect him to be. he needs to outplay majority of the names that I just threw at you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by all rights, like Kyle Murray, like, great athlete. He can make a lot of plays, dual threat QB, but he doesn't check all of my boxes. And I think he should, if there is a star out there or star-ish type player out there that's a QB, I would like to see him outperform Arizona. Would this not be like the first QB that he goes up against that kind of is like not middle of the road, but almost middle of the road type QB through all these games that we just went through?
Well, yeah, I think, if there's a trap
Trevor
game for me,
Lawrence,
and
too.
every year you have a trap game. To me, like Brennan just said, I took the words. I think the Bears. If I got them at 6-3, and I think they lose to either the Jaguars or the Cardinals. I know it sucks to be like, well, you can't just say they're going to lose to a team that they have a better roster than, but it's the NFL. The parity is amazing. Teams lose to teams with better rosters, or beat teams with better rosters. It happens. It happens all the time. The Bears did it 6 times last year. I mean.
Yeah, but
It's the
like
NFL,
Trax
man.
was saying, we still got a lot of records to predict. So it's not like we're saying we're gonna end up at 14-3, and to a point that Trax made with CJ Stroud last year, the Texans, they went 10-7, and Stroud had those moments that Caleb Williams, we do expect him to have too. Those he would have a great week, and then the next week he'd throw for 120 yards and get beat up. So I mean, like those growing pains are gonna happen. We know that. But that doesn't eliminate the fact that they can still find ways to win games.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think generally most of the teams we just went over, the Bears have a better roster than them. That's why I don't think saying 6-3 is disappointing. Should be disappointing to Bears fans at all.
Through the first 10 games, is there any defense that is better than ours? I think that's what rights the ship for the first 10 weeks, because getting into week 11, it starts to get a little dicey. Let's move on and go to, I think we covered everybody, right, through the.
Yeah, we beat New England for sure.
I'll be honest with you guys. Like, I feel bad that we spent that much time on Arizona, because I thought we were just going to breeze right through it. You guys totally threw me like the most wicked curveball I've ever seen of all curveballs, But it's cool. Like, I love it. So, Green Bay, November 17th, in Chicago. They still don't get to wear their colors. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about that game, Week 11, November 17th in Chicago versus Green Bay? Let's start with I'm going to throw a curveball to you guys. Let's start with Coop. What do you think, Coop?
I'm not picking the Bears to beat Green Bay until they beat Green Bay. Sorry, I'm just not. We haven't beaten them. I thought we were going to finally break that last year, and it didn't happen. They're very good.
Wait. I think Coop's breaking up. I can't hear what he's saying. Let's move on to someone. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, don't you ever cut me off.
I'm sorry, brother.
I'm a Packer man. Where's my cheese head at?
I can't quit you.
Though, guys, Green Bay is going to be very good. I think they're still going to be a very good team this year. I mean, the way that if Jordan Love plays the way he did last year at the end of the year, that's going to be a very good team with all those young players coming together like they did with their great offensive-minded head coach. Until the Bears beat them, I'm taking the Packers. I mean, just simple as that.
All right, Kyle.
Well, I disagree with Coop. I think the Bears are going to win one of these games. I don't think they're going to win both of them. And I'm going to blow your mind here. I think they're going to lose at home to the Packers and then beat the Packers in Green Bay when Caleb Williams is on his final game of the season and the game has slowed down a lot more for him. I think by the end of the season, Caleb Williams should be throwing 280, 300 yards and 2-3 touchdowns a game. And I think the Bears need to take their revenge after that loss last season. I think they need to win the last game of the season against Green Bay. So I'll pick the Bears to lose this one and start 6-4, but I do think they're going to win the last game of the season.
That's why Kyle has wanted us to go hot and hard on freaking, what do you call it, Caleb, because in week 9 and 10, he was already looking at week 18 where he finishes strong. So he definitely didn't want us to go 17-0 or 15-2 or whatever. Well, you can't do that because you got a bye week. But you know what I'm saying. My math ain't mathing, but you know what I'm picking up, put them down.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
I could sit here and give you the reasons why. I mean, we've talked about the Packers so much on the show. We all know it's a good team. They're very well coached. I'm not necessarily sold on Jordan Love. I'm not sold on the receiving core at all. I do not like Christian Watson. He's often injured. He's inconsistent. He drops passes. To me personally, I do not think the Packers have a wide receiver number one. Their tight ends were good, but not great. I just think that they're a good team who's well coached. They're going to play against rookie quarterback and Caleb Williams. I think they can pull one of these games out, but the Bears will win one of two of them.
I like what number 37, the ultra back. The
Jair
super,
Alexander
well,
or is that
no,
his?
no,
No. Oh, Josh
Jacobs.
Jacobs.
no, Davis, who's been on our show before.
Oh,
Uh,
Kellen Davis.
yeah, he said.
Oh, you're talking about the Bears play.
Yeah, he said that he doesn't understand why they went out and got Josh Jacobs, because when we played against Josh Jacobs, we owned that kid. I think he only ran like 25 yards on us. Like, we stomped him, and now he's over there, playing for Green Bay, and I'm looking forward to that. I really am, because when they got rid of, was it Aaron? It was
Aaron
Aaron.
Jones.
Yeah, like I was like, thank you, Jesus. Like, that was exactly what we needed.
I think it was Dustin who said originally. I think that you re-signed A.J. Dillon and signed Josh Jacobs is kind of redundant. They have the same running style.
Well, I
Yeah.
hate to play the devil's advocate, but my answer to Kellen Davis would be is a healthy Brandon Jacobs for an entire season better than a half a season Aaron Jones? Absolutely, 100%. I would not stick with Aaron Jones after missing half of a season instead of getting. I mean, do I think they overpaid Josh Jacobs? Do I think it was a position of need in their free agency? Probably not. But do I think had they had Aaron Jones the entire season, he makes an even bigger impact over the team? Do I think Josh Jacobs could have that effect over the Packers? Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, it wasn't so much that he was like pro Jones. It was just that we owned Jacobs when we played him, and like for them to go
Yeah, the
out.
Bears are going to do that to running backs. I feel all season long for sure.
well, those
And
types of running backs,
yeah,
right? Those types of running backs, like Josh Jacobs, he wants to bulldoze you and run straight at you, and
yeah.
Aaron Jones gets to the edge and he uses his speed, and that's
What
all.
type of running back was A.J. Dillon, who started 9 games for the Packers?
Dude, Dylan's legs are like this freaking ridiculous,
He's
man. Those
pretty
two guys.
They
comparable. He's
are.
probably a lesser talented, I would say, maybe, I don't know, the guy that the Packers just got, right? Like,
Well, Josh Jacobs just had
the
his career low in yards per carry this past season. Man, he's
the
got put
the
a lot of mileage
the
on him.
point is the Packers probably felt they needed a guy they can rely on the entire year, and I don't
So,
blame them for that.
am I the only one to go on record that thinks that we can beat Green Bay in Chicago? Is everybody considering this a loss, or
Oh no, the Bears are going to win this game.
okay?
The Bears are going to win
So
this game. I think they split with. I think they split with Green Bay, and Kyle was talking about taking the one away. There's some things that make sense for that because
I like that. That was cool.
at the end of the season, the Bears play that Thursday against Seattle, and then they have 10 days off before they play Green Bay. While Green Bay has a few less days to rest towards the end of
Wow.
the season. That's going to make a big difference. You could see them potentially sweeping the Packers with that going. If you're picking them to win it, I'm picking the Bears to win at home in this matchup. At this point, the way we're calling it, the Bears are 8-2. Caleb Williams has played some really soft secondaries, and he's starting to get his legs under him. And I think the Packers are going to get beat by the Bears in that first home game against
Hey,
them.
I like what Scrolls just says. Let's draw a little bit of attention over to our chat. We've kind of neglecting. That's my fault, fellas. Scrolls said Keith Washington's front seven will neutralize Josh Jacobs. I hopefully he's talking about
Eric,
both.
Eric Washington.
Eric Washington? Yeah.
Yeah, which is where, he's going to neutralize with our front seven defense. He's going to neutralize Green Bay's Josh Jacobs. So I
can I?
like his take. I hope he means that for both Green Bay games. And he's talking about a sweep. V-Dog says that he thinks that we'll split with Green Bay. James Schroeder says Green Bay is going to get swept by the Bears. It's been a long time since Chicago stomped the Packers. I love what you're putting down, James. Matt Cooper is oh my God, stop that, Scrolls. Hey, Scrolls, you can come in here anytime you want, but until you come in here and you start talking that freaking trash. You know what? Whatever, man.
At least spell it right.
Oh,
Can I
What's that?
can I get in on the Packers thing?
How dare you?
man, I almost went to a very dark place. I had your back.
Back
But
to the light
just
track.
know I had your back, Coop. AC Adam, bear down. Munoz, 10-7 is his guess.
Dobbs.
Man, I tell you what, we got a lot of stuff. Lugo's still in the building, so yeah, very cool, very cool. So what were you gonna say, Brandon?
In regards to that Green Bay game, if we have minus the Cardinals game, which we seemed kind of split on, it seemed as if Matt, Dustin, myself, and Utrex had them winning from week 5 in Carolina, Jacksonville 6, winning Washington 8, Arizona 9, New England 10, and 3 fairly winnable games between week 8, 9, and 10. And then they're going to run into Green Bay. After 5 wins in a row, they're going to run into Green Bay. This will be the first good team they play other than Houston, really, to me, a playoff team.
The Rams are a playoff team.
I think this is
I
going
think
to
they
be
are too.
I think this is going to be the game we're talking about, guys. I think this is going to be the game where the Bears kind of get rudely awakened and kind of reminded that after, like Dustin said, they're going to play those games. Caleb's going to be coming in. I think they're going to get overly confident. That's what I think. And I think this Green Bay team is better than people think they are. I think Green Bay was a better story than Houston, if you ask me. Jordan Love was starting his first season the same as CJ Stroud was. The Green Bay Packers finished, better than anybody else in the NFL, right? I don't know if you guys know that, but they did.
Until
the
they
second half of the
lost.
season. Second half of the season, they had the best record in the NFL. This is a
Brandon, to
team.
your point, I think Caleb should win 0 games because he's coming in to just rookie camp overly confident. So I don't know what's gonna happen, man. I'm a little nervous, bro.
I don't think Caleb's confidence is going to hurt the Bears in this game. I think the Bears' confidence is going to hurt the Bears.
Gotcha.
But I think this team. I don't understand how, as young as this team was last year, there's not more people. And you guys, I'm a Bears fan all the way, but this team needs to be talked about a little more. They really do. Their strength of schedule is still fair. I sent you guys the list today. The strength of schedules, it's still not brutal. I think they fall somewhere like 9th hardest schedule in the league. The players were all freshmen and sophomore. They were all rookie and sophomores. Every single player on that team, every player in that offense was a rookie or sophomore, minus their offensive line. This team is not a team the Bears rolling after 5 wins. This is not a team I would take lightly. I do think Kyle's right. I think this is the game they lose to the Packers, the game at home, after they've just beaten a couple of teams that I don't consider good.
All right. Okay. Who's next after Brandon just blew my mind?
I think we got everybody right.
Do we get everybody? Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's why Coop gets paid the big bucks as a DJ specialist, man. So where are we at right now? We're at Minnesota, right? November 24th versus Minnesota in Chicago. What do you guys feel about that one?
I think we can just get both the Minnesota games out of the way,
Yeah,
unless somebody disagrees with me. I think they're sweet.
Sorry.
So wait a second. You're going to pick Arizona as the trap game, but you're going to let us just run a mud hole through freaking Minnesota? You're killing
Yeah,
me, Boss.
I like
You're
Kyler Murray a lot more than I like JJ McCarthy or Sam Darnold.
Okay,
And
that's
I,
fair.
I think the loss of Danielle Hunter was huge for Minnesota. I think
I do too.
he was a Bear killer.
Yeah.
That was a huge loss for them.
You make good points. Does anybody disagree with Kyle? Can we just move forward with both Minnesota games and get to Turkey Thursday against Detroit?
One thing to throw out.
The
One thing
Vikings.
to throw out with the Vikings is Brian Flores,
Yes.
the defensive coordinator.
Yes.
He's going to send a lot of pressure at Caleb Williams. He's going to try to make him uncomfortable. And they did sign Greenard. They still have some pass rushers, and
They have Dallas Turner.
They drafted Dallas Turner.
Drafted Dallas Turner. Yeah, so that's my point. Like they can get after the quarterback still. So that's something you gotta keep in mind with the Vikings. I think they're wins, but I don't think that they're both.
I just think the Vikings are going to have the worst quarterback play in the NFL this year. To me personally, I would
Yeah,
put
I
him
agree
as
with that.
number one.
I do like their
Right.
defense, though. To your point,
Yeah.
So do I. I like
I have
Brian
the-
Flores.
I have-
Dustin makes very good points, and Flores loves rookie quarterbacks. Man, he does. I just don't think the Vikings can score. I love Justin Jefferson. I love Jordan Addison. I love T.J. Hawkinson, but can anybody get them the ball?
I think this is a game where I agree with Dustin. Brian Flores is terrifying for a rookie quarterback because he doesn't just blitz the most and he doesn't show a lot of pressure. He tricks you is what he does. He shows pressure and he drops into coverage a lot. And it's terrifying. It was terrifying for Justin Fields. I do think they split Minnesota and I think they win the game at home on the 24th. But the Minnesota team, this is a team that the Bears are going to have to run the ball against. These are the games in which I think DeAndre Swift has his best performances are against Minnesota. They weren't as strong against the run as they were against pass. But like Dustin said, if you're going approaching this game as the head coach of a rookie quarterback, you want to hand the damn ball off as much as possible against these guys. That's what I would do.
Or get it out quick. Yeah.
Right. So, Detroit. Detroit Thanksgiving at Detroit. Dustin.
I think this is one of the Bears' losses. I think Detroit's, they're building a culture up there with Campbell, and they were in the NFC Championship. It's hard for me to pick the Bears to beat them on Thanksgiving in Detroit after the Packers went in there and beat them on Thanksgiving last year and really got on a roll. So I mean, it's not like Thanksgiving really plays a part in it, but the Detroit got better and they were in the NFC Championship last year. So it's hard for me to see the Bears pulling that off early morning Thanksgiving. I think it's a decently close game. I think the Bears hang with them, but I think the experience and the pedigree that they're building in Detroit kind of wins the day when it's all said and done. This might be a game where Caleb takes a few lumps.
It doesn't
All
that
right.
seem like the Bears all their primetime games are on the road every year? I feel like every single year all their important primetime games are on the road. The Bears never get to be at home on primetime.
Last year at Washington, right, on that Thursday night game.
Yeah, they played the Vikings, right? Wasn't that Monday night or Sunday night? They won, even though Justin Fields fumbled twice, but that was a primetime game, I
Oh,
believe.
hey, random question I forgot to ask you guys. Anybody know this? I could probably Google it, but when they have a home game in London, are both end zones painted bears?
Yeah, I believe so.
Is it? I was curious
I
about
think
that.
the
Is
whole
that
field is Bears.
no, I think it is. I think it is. Yeah.
I think the Bears emblem's in the middle of the field too.
Should. What do you think about
Sorry.
Detroit?
I think the Bears lose that game as well. I said they sweep the Vikings. I think they lose to Detroit. So right now I have them at 8-5. I just
Okay.
think that, like Dustin said, it's when and where you play them. It's tough. Detroit is a very tough place to play. I feel like the whole team gets faster on turf. Jared Goff's splits are absolutely incredible. He's so much better at home. The Lions certainly got better in the offseason. They already had a good team to begin with. That's a very tall task for the Bears to go in there on Thanksgiving Day and win. I just think,
Yeah.
I'd like Dustin said, I think it's going to be a really good game, but I do have the Lions pulling it out.
All right. Yeah, just trying to wrap this up really quick. We've got almost approaching 11 o'clock and midnight for Coop. So I did not foresee this going that deep. Did anybody not get to weigh in on Detroit?
I think Detroit's going to be to what you guys said. I like what they did in the offseason, and I love their draft. I love they getting Arnold in the first round of the draft. I think they upgraded over Cam Sutton with that drama with the Cam Sutton stuff. I actually think they got better in their cornerbacks, and then I like Reader from Cincinnati that they picked up. So I think they're actually going to be a very tough team this year. So I think it's
Okay.
going to be hard for that. I don't think the Bears are going to beat them.
Yeah, their defense got better.
Yeah, a lot better.
So is that a sweep or just at Thanksgiving, Coop?
Just Thanksgiving.
I think I got Green Bay. No, I think they're going to go 1-1 against Detroit. I think
Okay.
they will beat them once. Yeah.
What about at San Francisco, December 8th, week 14?
That's enough. Yeah,
That's a loss.
All the way across the board?
I don't like that at all. No.
Okay. December 15th at Minnesota.
Win.
I think that's a win too.
I
Did
think
Brandon?
I think the Bears split with Minnesota. I think the Bears split with every divisional team. I haven't lost it.
So we go from 2-4, which I learned today, to 3-3, right? That's good. Okay, so December 22nd versus Detroit in Chicago.
Win.
I think it's a loss.
I don't like Jared Goff in cold weather, man.
Yeah,
Just don't like him.
Solid point. That Lions team is it's a lot better than it's getting credit for. Vegas has
I agree.
the second highest win total in the NFC for that team for a reason.
I know, but for some reason they just never seem to match up well against the Chicago Bears. I mean, ultimately the Bears should have won 2 games against them last season, and the Bears weren't a very good team. I do like the Lions a lot. I think they're a really good team, but this is what I was talking about earlier. This is one of those games where I think the Lions lose to somebody they should not lose to, even if they're a better roster than the Bears. I think the Bears beat them, split that series with them. I think the Bears won this game.
Yeah. All right. December 26th versus Seattle on our final primetime game, Thursday Night Football, day after Christmas is on a Wednesday this year.
Yeah, the day before.
Crazy. So what do you guys?
Trax, is that a home game?
That is a home game, yes, versus Seattle. What do you guys feel about that one?
I'd say win.
That's a win. Yeah.
Seattle
I think
looks
it's a
like
win too.
Seattle looks like trash right now, right? They lost Carroll. They're not really.
They're to
looking
rebuild.
good. Yeah.
And we took one of their best coaches.
I mean,
Yeah.
I still like the Seattle team, but
Couple of
Geno Smith does not impress me, and then having a new coach is confusing because you just don't really know what to expect from him. I still like Jackson Smith and Jigma. I like TK Metcalf. I like Tyler Lockett. I just don't. I think the Bears are a better roster, and I think the Bears are a year out of them.
And they added Howell. Which could cause some confusion and problems in that locker. Right?
Also not good for them. Yeah, I mean, it could be good in the long run, but this year it's not.
I do like their position players. To your point, I think they're going to be a little bit better than we think, but I also think they're trying to rebuild on the fly as well.
Well, that's the end of the year. Caleb Williams should be playing much better. They have to come to Chicago in prime time. Just not a good situation for Seattle to be in.
So outside of myself and Kyle, who think that Chicago, January 5th at Green Bay, Chicago will stomp a mud hole in their buttholes. Does anybody else think that Chicago will beat Green Bay here?
No, I think it's a loss.
Oh, damn.
I'm not picking. Listen, I'm not picking the Bears against the Packers.
I hear you. I hear you. You've went on record. Fair
I
enough.
think they split with the Packers, but
Don't get me angry here, man.
In
You're
Lambeau,
good. You're good.
I hate the Packers so much.
Brandon?
I have the Bears winning this game, and for one reason. I think this is the game that the Bears have to win to get into the playoffs, and I think the Packers will have already been in the playoffs when this game occurs. I think the Packers will have a record that solidifies them a playoff spot. I think the Bears will be playing this game for the playoffs, so I have the Bears winning the last game of the season, kind of no matter who they play.
Interesting.
So one half of Brandon squared. Let's get into your Nostradamus bag of tricks. If you are saying that at week 18 we are playing Green Bay and have to beat them going into the playoffs, who do we play in the playoffs?
I could see it like a matchup with the Rams, maybe.
You don't think that it could potentially be Green Bay or Detroit?
I have Green Bay winning the division, so I don't see Green Bay in the wild card weekend. Though.
Well, it being the Rams would be strange because that would mean the Rams would need to have like a top 2.
Yeah, Vernon, you would be saying they're playing the Packers because you'd say the Packers win the division, the Bears would be a wild card team, maybe the 6th team so the Bear that would be the matchup. That would be one or 5th or 6th. That could easily be one of the matchups.
When they play
the division winner.
When they play the Lions, then though, if the Packers won the division and the Lions were a wild card team.
Well, the Packers would get
lower seeds.
The top 2 teams. I don't think the Packers are going to be the top 2 teams. Do you?
I see what he's saying.
No, you're right. Yeah, no, I don't. I think either the Eagles and the Cowboys, the Niners for sure, and then either the Eagles and Cowboys
or the Eagles. Whoever wins the NFC East or the NFC West. The Rams aren't winning the NFC West. So
I think Green Bay versus Chicago is a strong possibility of playoffs. If you think,
tracks. I guess you're right. That could be what occurs for sure.
I think it's going to be the Cardinals.
I like what Scrolls just said, fellas. It's impossible to predict these games. Caleb could have rookie struggles, or he could be unstoppable.
What I said earlier.
We all said that earlier, but I do like what Scrolls says. And what's cool about all this is not only are we like trying to channel our expectations and cool it out, but there is a possibility to go so far. Like our ceiling could be much higher. We're all in agreement that like if it went bananas a couple games and we were further north of our, well, except me who expects us to be like 13-4, right?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're all far off. I think you guys had the
No.
Bears what, 12? Would you guys have them at? Dustin, would you have the Bears at?
Are we doing our records right now?
Well, I mean, we just did, right? I mean,
I got them 11-6. I got the Bears 11-6. I thought I would have them 10-7, but every time
I got them at somewhere. It's 10-7, 11-6, somewhere around the same.
About 10-7.
Yeah, we're not
Can
far off.
somebody
I
at
think
least
we're all
tie
pretty much in agreement.
Nagy 12-win season, please? Can someone throw a 12-win out there for me that ties Nagy?
Tracks, you got him at 16-1, right?
No, I said 13-4, man. I'm fine with Pinky. I like Pinky.
Listen, if the Bears go 13-4, I'll be ecstatic, man. That'll be absolutely, and that means that Caleb Williams is not just good; he's probably generational. I just want to temper expectation.
No, I hear you, brother. It makes sense. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Good show, guys. Really good show. Thanks for all the content. You guys make this look very easy. It's almost like we have a script, and we don't. But nonetheless, man, it was great. And
yeah, thanks for letting me do the schedule show. I really appreciate it, guys. It was a good show. I had a blast.
Hey, you know what? Can you guys believe that it actually went an hour and 46, and we probably could have squeezed a little bit more juice out of the orange and got at over 2 hours out of this pod? It's unbelievable.
Man, we can talk about the Bears all day.
When are we gonna do a Packers one?
Brandon will host it.
I would.
Packer green on.
Not Packer green. It's not even close.
The division-winning podcast.
We'll talk, Brandon.
Yeah. Hey, I appreciate you guys. Thanks again. Do you guys have any closing comments or anything that you'd like to add before we leave? Any business that I might have missed? We got anyone coming on in the near future that we've been talking about?
Yeah. What you want to go?
Jay Hood will be on,
you
right?
Said Jay Hood, yeah.
But before that, Kurt Becker will be on Monday, and then Jay Hood will be on Wednesday. The Jay Hood will be a little bit early. It's kind of interesting to see how many people will be on for that because that'll be midday, like 3:00, but 3:30 Central Time. So anyone that can hop on and help me out, I'd greatly appreciate it. It's kind of just a weird request, but sounds like a very busy guy. You know what I mean? So
he's in bed early, man. Cap and Hood start that show early as hell. I was surprised Cap stayed as late as he did with us.
Yeah. Does that guy get any sleep?
I don't think he sleeps though.
No.
Oh, hey, guys, in the news today.
I think he burns the candle on both ends, kind of guy, man.
Yeah.
He'll sleep when he's dead.
In the news today, not very relevant or exciting news, but it made me smile. Robert Griffin was fired by ESPN.
I saw that.
Yeah,
who's his predecessor? Who's taking
Kelsey,
over?
right?
Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. Jason Kelsey.
The Mavs, the Thunder. The Mavs just won Game 5 against the Thunder. Take a 3-2 lead on that.
I had that up.
That's pretty awesome.
Dustin, you got Denver finishing off Minnesota, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be Denver, Dallas in the Western Conference Finals.
Luka,
yeah, I agree.
It's about time Luka gets there.
Cubs won tonight. Did the Cubs did the Sky win?
Sox won.
Sox won.
Oh, I was watching that Sky game earlier for some reason.
I thought you were gonna say you were watching the Sox game, and I was gonna say why.
You could ask me the same question about the Sky, honestly. The Sky lost.
Hey, Cooper, you were right, man. That Tommy Pham signing was amazing. They're just going to flip him for a prospect, and he was sitting on his couch 2 weeks ago. Good job by the Red Sox.
The Sky lost, Brandon.
Hey, Brandon. Tracks, don't forget Friday night. I'll be back on with Cleat too for when we usually have our baseball.
Oh my gosh, dude! Night. You guys got to check this out. It's going to be baseball centric. It's going to be fire. Of course, we're going to start off with some football like we always do, but then they're going to kick it off with some baseball and go around the horn of all of Chicago and just really hit all of the teams and get you all caught up. So great content. Elder statesman in the building, Coop and Cleet, and anybody else in between that would like to hop on with them on Friday. That'd be great. So
Sean with them, they're awesome on Friday.
yeah, Sean does a great job,
Love
man.
Sean.
Yeah, freaking Coop loves Sean. That's his new pride and
Yeah,
joy.
that Friday show was awesome, man. You got all three of you guys are killing it. I love that show, man.
Thank you,
Yeah.
man. Appreciate it. Look forward to another one this Friday.
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, and it's time for Chicago to start. I know it's early. It's time to start getting excited about that Cubs team, man. It feels different. Really
It
does.
does. It does.
Sorry, Coop.
Well, yeah, I don't
Hey,
feel
the
different about
Sox.
my
The
team.
Sox are 10-8 in the last 18.
They're competitive. They've been very
Yeah.
competitive the last couple of
They've
weeks.
got some young guys stepping up, man. They really do.
Yeah, and like I said, that Tommy Pham signing was amazing because they're just going to flip him for a prospect, and he was just literally sitting on his couch 3 weeks ago. I mean, that was
I
a
love
great
it.
signing by the White Sox.
All right, boys, let's get some rest and bear down, Chi-Town up. Appreciate you guys. Everybody, make sure you hit that like, subscribe button, leave a 5-star review. You all know what to do. Thanks again, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, guys.
Bear down, fellas.